Rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have a roll call, please.
Commissioner Segerbrook. Commissioner Rinzi.
Here.
Commissioner Menace. Commissioner Heinen.
Here.
Commissioner Womack.
Here.
Commissioner Green. Chairman Kiefer.
Present.
Park District. School District. Fire District. Library District.
Thank you. Let the record reflect that Commissioner Menace is in attendance. Thank you. In your packets, we have the minutes from the January 17th, 2017 Plan Commission meeting. Are there any adjustments or corrections that need to be made? Okay, hearing none, we will accept the minutes as presented. At this time during our meeting, we have time set aside for any public comments from anybody in the audience that wishes to comment on something that is not on our agenda this evening. So again, anything that is not on our agenda, this is the time to bring up questions. Okay, hearing none from the audience, we will move forward. Do we have a development report?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Village Board did meet last night and took action on a handful of cases that have been before the Zoning Board of Appeals and the Plan Commission recently. These include the request for a fence variance at 12549 South Wingstem. That variance request was approved by ordinance. The Village Board also approved an ordinance granting approval for the special use for a beauty and nail salon on at 12443 South Route 59. The board did grant approval of an ordinance for a plan development for the 2-unit residential at 23904 West Main Street. There were 2 dissenting votes on that case, and I think the board is very much sensitive to the conversion of commercial property to alternate uses. So, staff believes the plan development approach here does maintain the flexibility to keep the property zone B3, but allow for the residential use that was requested. The board directed ordinance preparation for approval of the Primrose preschool on the last remaining outlot at Meyer, and as well approved the site plan review for that project. The village board approved a site plan review for potential business transition and or residential use on Joliet Road, just south of the funeral home. The Plan Commission may recall this was before the commission last summer and last fall, and just due to an oversight, the board approved the rezoning previously, but the site plan review motion had been deferred, so that was formally approved. And then, unrelated to the Plan Commission, but potentially of interest, the board approved a certificate of appropriateness for the Cape Cod residential house is being converted to a real estate office on Lockport Street, just east of James Street. So the Historic Preservation Commission had recommended approval of a certificate of appropriateness for that. And then, just of interest for the commission, the board did swear in Tom Ruane as a trustee to fill the position that was vacated by Trustee Rasich's resignation. So Tom Ruane's been a long time volunteer in the community, one of the organizers of the Hometown Irish Parade for the Village Preservation Association. He's currently a director with the Plainfield Riverfront Foundation and very active organizing Plainfield Fest as well. So he'll serve in a short-term capacity through April until Trustee Rasich's term expires. So that concludes the development report.
Okay, thank you. We have no old business on the agenda, so we'll move directly into new business. Under new business, we have one case. It is case number 1751-011717.SU. It's RR Tire and Auto Repair, and it's a request for a special use, and this includes the public hearing. Do we have a planner's report on this case?
Yes, we do. Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. The request is for a special use for a auto repair. The location is at 15932 South Lincoln Highway. The actual address of the subject building is 15924 South Lincoln Highway. The current zoning on the property is B3, and the comprehensive plan has it designated as general commercial. The applicant is seeking special use approval to operate an auto repair service at 15924 South Lincoln Highway. It sits on a multi-use commercial property that includes several other uses. The village's zoning ordinance requires that new auto body and/or auto repair shops located in the B3 zoning district be approved through the special use application process. The subject property is located on the back or the south portion of a 1.38 acre lot that includes several commercial businesses and multiple buildings. The applicant plans to operate their business out of a 1,500 square foot building in the south portion of the lot. To the north of this building is a 1,500 square foot commercial building housing the office of a religious ministry. And to the west of this building are storage units, and to the south as well. On the north end of the property with visibility along Lincoln Highway is a retail building that includes a liquor store, a tax service, a barber shop, and a Mexican restaurant. And then on the northwest corner of the property is a consignment shop. Nearly the entire balance of the lot is paved, with an exception of a small portion of the south end of the lot, down at this south corner, where automobiles are currently stored on a dirt field. The adjacent land uses, zoning, and functional street classifications are as follows. To the north of the property is Lincoln Highway, US Route 30, which is classified as a major arterial. Across the street is a Speedway gas station that is zoned B3. To the east of the property is McAnally's Religious Resource, which is zoned B3. To the south and west of the property is single-family residential that is zoned R3 in Will County. It's unincorporated. And there's a ComEd public utility substation to the northwest of the property. The applicant is requesting special use approval to permit an auto body and/or auto repair service in the B3 zoning district. The applicant's business will occupy an existing 1,500 square foot commercial building on the rear of the property. This building includes 3 garage bays and a service door and was previously used for auto repair. As the building had previously been outfitted for an auto repair shop, the owner does not plan major changes to the building at this time, other than possibly some wall signage above the garage bays to identify the business. The applicant plans to service 1 to 2 automobiles at once, and approximately 2 to 3 customers at any given time, and a total of approximately 10 vehicles per day. The area in front of the building is paved, and the owner has stated that they will have room for 4 customer parking spaces and 2 employee parking spaces. The zoning ordinance requires 3 parking spaces per service bay, or a total of 9 parking spaces. The applicant plans to provide 6 parking spaces, which is 3 spaces short of the requirement. However, given that the applicant plans to service no more than 1 to 2 automobiles at once and no more than 2 to 3 customers at any given time, and also given the ample parking provided on the remainder of the property, staff is comfortable granting relief from this requirement. Staff visited the site and noticed that there were several cars stored on the unpaved area on the south end of the property. Staff recommends that vehicle parking or storage not be allowed in this area unless this area is paved. Should the applicant or property owner pave this portion of the property, they shall take steps to ensure that that is properly engineered, maintained, and screened in accordance with village regulations. The planned hours of operation for the business are 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Monday through Friday, and 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Sunday. While the property does back up to a residential area, the building where the repairs will be occurring is buffered by building housing storage units that may shield some of the noise that may be generated by the business. Staff also finds the planned hours of operation to be reasonable and of minimal impact to surrounding residents. The applicant indicated they are open to further suggestions to mitigate any noise that is generated. In order for the Plan Commission to recommend approval of a special use, it must make 2 findings of fact as follows. The first finding of fact is that the special use will not be injurious to the use and enjoyment of other property in the immediate area for purposes already permitted, nor substantially diminish property values within the neighborhood. Staff finds that there may be some impacts to surrounding properties, primarily in the form of noise generated. However, staff finds that the noise generated will be mitigated by the storage unit building on the property absorbing much of the noise before it reaches the surrounding residential homes. Furthermore, existing heavy landscaping in the residential area likely will absorb some of the noise as well. Staff also finds that the business's planned hours of operation are reasonable and of low impact to a residential neighborhood. The applicant does not plan evening hours at this time. Staff also finds that the applicant is cooperative and open to reasonable suggestions to further minimize the impact of noise to surrounding properties. In regard to parking and traffic generated by the business, staff finds the applicant's scale of business to be of low impact and believes the number of parking spaces planned will be adequate to serve the facility, given the maximum number of customers they expect at any given time and the number of vehicles they plan to service per day. From an economic development perspective, staff finds that filling this vacant space will be of great benefit to the surrounding area as it will likely increase the value of the subject property and surrounding commercial properties and also generate additional business activity along the Lincoln Highway corridor. Overall, staff finds that the renewed use of this property for a small-scale auto repair business to be a benefit to the surrounding area and the village of Plainfield as a whole. The second finding of fact that needs to be made for a special use permit is that the establishment of the special use will not impede the normal and orderly development and improvement of the adjacent properties for uses permitted in the subject zoning district. Staff finds that the proposed use is compatible with and complementary to the existing uses on the property and with surrounding properties. The renewed productive use of a former auto repair shop will add further value to a commercial corridor that has become a hub of sorts for auto-related uses, including auto sales, auto repair, car rental, and service stations. Furthermore, staff believes the addition of this use to the subject property will contribute to a healthy diversity of commercial uses that will complement each other. If the business is successful, staff is hopeful that it could lead to potential improvements to the subject property or possible redevelopment of this property or another nearby property. In conclusion, staff finds that the establishment of RR Tire and Auto Repair on the subject property will not result in negative impacts to adjacent properties or uses in the area and will complement existing uses on the property and in the general area. Staff believes that the renewed productive use of this auto repair building will add more value to the subject property and surrounding commercial properties and could potentially lead to improvements to the subject property or to surrounding properties down the road. In advance of any comments from the public hearing or input from the Plan Commission, staff recommends approval. And just to note, staff did not receive any feedback from anyone about this case in advance of the public hearing tonight, other than one person who called just wanting to know what was happening at the meeting tonight. Should the Plan Commission concur, the following motion is offered as mentioned in the staff report. And that concludes the staff report.
Okay, thank you. Do we have anyone here this evening representing the applicant? Can I get you to approach this microphone over here? Did you want to offer any testimony? Could you? Okay. So please approach that microphone. I'll need to swear you in. So if you could raise your right hand. Do you swear that all testimony you give this evening is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Can you please state your name for the recording secretary?
Richard Ramirez.
Okay, would you like to add anything to what we've heard with the planner's report?
No, I did realize when I sent that out, it was Monday through Friday.
Yes.
So Monday through Saturday, correct?
Okay, I had a question about that.
Yeah, and then Sundays, normal hours. That's big mistake on our part.
So there's no hours on Sunday. The staff report should reflect Saturday, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m.?
No, Saturdays also, it's Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 5.
Okay.
And then Sunday would be 9 to 3.
So there are no hours on Saturday?
There are 8:30 to 5.
Okay, and then no hours on Sunday? Or
Sunday also.
so 7 days you're talking?
Yes.
Okay. I had one other question about that. So 5 o'clock, Monday through Friday, I mean, I'm not trying to tell you how to run your business, but is that adequate time for people to pick up their automobiles after work?
Absolutely.
Okay,
We'll make it work. That's what we got for now.
okay. Do you want to add anything else to what we've heard so far?
No, other than the fact that I know parking there is a little tight. I have a good relationship with the building owner. I've known him for quite some time. So what I would ask for him, as long as everything is up to code, is to come out and either work with us or help us out in drawing the parking space lines, the parking spots. That's something I'm pretty sure I can touch base on him. And again, as long as everything's up to code, there's no reason why we can't get that done.
Okay.
So just being reasonable, I'm willing to work around to make everyone's business as successful as possible.
Okay. If you could just remain there in case we have
Yeah.
questions for you, we may. At this time, is there anybody in the audience, the public, that would like to ask a question or comment on this case? Jack, could I get you to approach this microphone over here? And I will also need to swear you in, so if you could raise your hand. Do you swear that all testimony you give tonight is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Could you please state your name for the recording secretary?
Robert Breeding.
Okay, please go ahead with your comments.
I represent True to Limits Apostolic Ministries. We're a church at 15928. And we've been hearing things back and forth, but no one has ever really came to us and told us what was going on. So at first our main concern was the park. Because without this business, we still is down, especially on Sundays, when we come in, and on Thursday evenings when we come in. Now, I'm just listening, now I find out that there's gonna be, the business closing at 5 o'clock, but that wouldn't affect our Thursday service. But Sundays, 9 to 3, well, that's church. That's church time. So now, with us parking back there and then all the other traffic coming through, it's gonna be a problem. And then I'm listening and he's saying something about the noise. I hadn't even thought about that. But the noise level on a Sunday and trying to worship God at the church, I don't see how that's gonna work. That's really that's interfering with everything. And we've been there for 4 years, and we were zoned for the church.
Which building are you referring to on the map up here? Is it the, if we could point that out? No, so that's the,
That's the church.
okay. And then the auto shop will be where?
Yeah,
Just a
so
minute.
that's the church, and yeah, it's correct. This is.
So you're, so adjacent.
So he's saying that buildings would deter the noise level, but we're right beside it, so it's not gonna deter it from us.
Andrew, do you know who has, I'm assuming this is shared parking then for this facility? So is this something that the landlord has to address? I mean,
Yeah, I would imagine. I'm not sure how many parking spaces you require on a Sunday and what your existing agreement is for all that. But I mean, just looking at the site, it just seems very tight to allow all of these uses. I wasn't aware that you actually had services there. I just thought it was an office.
No, it's the church.
Okay, all right.
So who owns, is it the same ownership between both buildings?
Yes.
Same landlord? Okay. What about the one that the other commercial outfits are in, the restaurant and
Yes.
it's all the same? Okay.
Yes.
Yes, yeah. It's all under the same ownership.
yeah, I'm actually kind of surprised that that's an active church. I didn't know that it was, that held services, because there are some guidelines for parking regulations that would have to be in place if you were to have service. I mean, we've had buildings that have been converted or rezoned, and that is something that we always look at for adequate parking. So I'm
Well, up
just
until-
looking at this map, I'm not quite sure how you'd meet your needs.
Up until recently, the last 4 years, we hadn't had any problems. And then once the barber shop came in, all of a sudden we started having more problems. It's like they changed, one thing, they changed the parking, the way they parking, the way it was parking. All the church parking at first was right in front of the church and running alongside the fence. But they changed it, so now the way they got it parking, they're parking towards the street, towards the new highway. And so that took all the church's parking away. So that forced us around to the back, which we don't have that much parking back there. So now, if they open up theirs, that's even taking more. And then it's also putting the cars that are parking back there in danger, because a lot of people have nice cars, and you have people traffic.
Sure.
So how many members do you have in your church at 63?
I'm curious
And-
as to what its what it's zoned and if there was a special use that was
It is a
required.
requirement that religious uses go through the special use
Yes.
permit process. I'm not sure when that was put into place versus when you started services there.
I don't remember hearing this case, though. Do you remember this, the
Yeah,
details on this?
I wasn't aware that there was an active church here as well, so I'm glad that you had the notice and had the opportunity to provide that information during the process here. The village has changed our zoning code over time to regulate special uses a little differently. And there's a chance that, religious assembly was one of those that was previously permitted by right in the B3 zoning district. So it may have simply gone in for a zoning verification and a building permit and satisfied the requirements of the building department and the fire department.
Because I know when we've rezoned or allowed for special use, like in an industrial setting, it's one of the biggest things we have discussions over is parking and traffic flows on particularly days that would be used for service and members.
Yeah, it sounds like, it doesn't sound like Thursday night service is going to be an issue, but it sounds like Sunday is going to be an issue. And since you weren't aware of this actually as a use with the church, I guess I'd recommend on going back and trying to figure this out and figure if this is an issue and how we address it. So I don't, with this additional information, I don't feel comfortable voting on this until we get some more data on that.
Well, okay, thank you for your comments. I appreciate that. I would recommend, too, you'd probably want to talk to your landlord in regards to who has priority with the parking.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
exactly right.
Regardless of that testimony, the application before us is for the special use to allow this business to be here. I'm going to allow commissioners to comment, obviously, and ask questions, but keep in mind, there was previously almost an identical business operating out of here. And if I'm not mistaken, with staff report, the special use just didn't automatically carry over, so it's part of the requirement how to come back before us. So it does sound like it has some challenges with the parking, even indicated in Andrew's report. Even if they don't look at that area that isn't paved, that seems like that might be something the owner might want to examine. But I'll open up the commissioners.
Again, the conflict is Sunday, and the report didn't even have Sunday as being operational or open, I guess. I'm sorry, it did end Sunday. It said Monday through Friday. So I guess the question is would the applicant feel comfortable in not being open on Sunday to avoid that conflict?
I'm not going to rule that out. What I will say is, again, I'm willing to work, settle this parking situation, talk to our landlord. I know he's familiar with him. I'm familiar with him. See if we can work something out.
And that's fine. That's if you feel like you need to be open on Sunday, that's fine. It just needs to be worked out with all the different uses and parking just to make sure we don't have an issue.
And yeah, I completely respect that. Parking for church on Sunday, that's understandable. But if that's the route eventually we'd have to go, I'd definitely consider it.
Okay, well, and you also indicated, maybe servicing 1 to 2 vehicles at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Is your thought also to have cars stacked waiting for service? Meaning, you're going to have more than 1 or 2 cars on site at any
Right.
given time, correct?
Correct. No, none waiting. It's going to be you come in. We have 3 bay doors, so 1 to 2 vehicles. That'll leave a third one open, so they should be able to pull right in and into the garage, the bay door.
You don't envision customers dropping vehicles off for service during the day and coming back?
Some, and that's again the parking spaces. There's nothing there that, like he had mentioned, there's nothing drawn. There's no lines. People just kind of park where they want.
Yeah, it's just I'm struggling to see where the parking is because it looks like
Yeah,
there's that
it's-
triangular space, but how do cars actually access that?
It's
I think
you
it's
come
back
around the corner, a very tight corner, and that's the way in and out.
When I did my site visit, it appeared to be kind of a one-way in,
How is that
so.
even going to work? I mean, I don't.
Looks very tight.
Is that where it's
Fire
at?
department here as well. Is that an
Yeah,
arrangement?
Yeah.
that's actually it. Yeah, that's
I
that
don't-
in and out right there.
I don't know. It just seems. Obviously this was built a long time ago, and it's been operational under these conditions for a long time. But at some point, I guess you got to think, you know, you gotta realize, is this safe? Is this, you know, I don't know. I think this needs to be analyzed a little bit more than just, you know, the fact that this was a use before, then we might as well just, you know, approve it again. You know, I'd love to see this property get redeveloped at some point too.
I think too, there's the other business there that nobody's mentioned yet too, the wild card when somebody comes to access their storage unit. Or
across.
multiple people, that could happen at any point, and then that throws another wrench in.
That runs the whole perimeter of that lot.
So then any circular traffic flow kind of goes away too.
Yeah, that's one thing. I've never seen anybody park in front of the storage or anywhere near it. Usually you have people there around evenings, I'll say, or weekends. They don't seem to have a problem coming in and out of that property. But yes, I am aware it is a tight space.
Other commissioners want to comment on this?
Well, I have a few questions of staff. So, this property was an auto repair shop before. Did they have a special use? Because I can't remember if we added an auto repair shop as a special use in zoning or right before. 'Cause
I believe that regulation of auto repair has been fairly consistent, that we haven't changed the special use treatment of that.
So-
But I just, that's something that we could
How
look into, or I
long-
could look into.
I didn't find anything recently, so
Right.
it could be something from a while back.
How long have they been out? Have they been out 2 years, 4 years, 8 years?
I
I
do not
don't
know.
have that answer.
The shop that was there previously, I'm sorry.
Yes, if you know.
5 years is a good guess.
Okay, so if I'm looking at the timeline, the shop and the church have never been opened together. Because if the church came in 4 years, they
Right.
came in after the repair shop
Yeah,
was
that's a good
closed.
point.
Makes sense,
Good
yeah.
point.
Okay. And,
And along those lines too, I think the village also needs to go back and look at how that's zoned to allow for a church, not just a religious store, like a storefront. If it's having services there, that is a issue of zoning too that might have to be looked at.
and so did the residents to the west, did they get notice too on this? Because this is a notice. to
Yes,
proceed.
yeah, all surrounding property owners were notified, including the residences to the west, and he provided the applicant provided the certified mail receipts.
Okay, and we provide notice to the landowners, not necessarily the tenants?
Right, property owners, not necessarily the tenants, right?
And probably later tonight, remind me then this may be an issue.
There was a sign posted in front of the property as well.
Okay, does that mean the front by Route 30 or in front
Um,
of the? auto shop?
On Route 30, mainly, you know, for everyone to see, yeah.
Okay, so the people, all the lessees for the businesses, various businesses, could see that somebody wants it coming back then?
Right.
Okay. And, that, you have pictures of the grassy knoll at the southwest corner, and you say that's really dirt and it's cars?
Yeah, and there are cars parked on it. I'm not sure who they belong to.
That was gonna be my question, because wouldn't that be a violation then?
I would
And
think
shouldn't
so.
Shouldn't
Of store
the
vehicles.
enforcement people be at least told that they should possibly go out and visit that site?
Yeah, I can let them know.
Seems
Okay.
like, yeah, code enforcement.
Okay, and, oh, the other thing is we've been talking around parking, but this is yet another meeting where we're, at least initially, we were looking at the village's pronouncements on parking as a sort of, voidable precondition, so to speak, that, okay, if a default number is this, but if the applicant has good reason, we can move from that, which I necessarily don't really have a problem with, other than the fact the ordinance doesn't really say that. So I think as to the ordinance, we probably ought to get some clarification from the village board that we should either have a variance granted to them for parking on every one of these, or we should make specific findings that their default provisions would not necessarily apply, that we have looked into the facts, and the facts can rebut the presumption, because other than that, I just replay everything I said last time we had a meeting as to parking. Because I know
Certainly.
another commissioner used the word overparked, and I
Well,
I agree with that concept of overparking, because when we look at some of the major facilities,
well, in this
they're never
case,
filled. But this one,
well, in this
Yeah.
case too, when they talk about 3 spaces short based on the bays that are, whether they're in use or not, I'm not even sure where you get those in this configuration. One of our commissioners isn't here, Commissioner Sager, but she's very adamant about pointing out the requirements for handicap, wheelchair accessible, and that then has to be figured in here, and I don't see that. I mean, the applicant has talked about trying to get some striping or something down, but that doesn't really address dedicated spots. So that's another thing that needs to be addressed.
yeah, that's, because that too, when I'm looking at this, because again, I don't know the time frame for the storage units to come in. But if that was in fact parking prior, and now it's storage units, well, don't the storage units also carry a parking requirement? And if so, or if not, they still are going to take
And they appear to be
how many
non-secured.
ever parking places away?
Just think it's crazy. You got
Yeah,
storage, you
I
got
don't think you can fit any parking back in that triangular area because the storage units need access. You're in front of the businesses that are operating out of this
Yeah,
facility that the auto repair shop's looking at, and then the backside of the other building. So I don't know how you could squeeze any striping back there, really.
yeah, I'm looking at that, and
And, in one of our, standard requirements is approval from the Fire Protection District. And I don't want to speak for them, but I think this also presents some challenges for accessibility.
yeah, I mean, it's kind of designed like a battleship scenario, where you just kind of stick everything and try to put it so it doesn't get hit, because it's all kind of juxtapositioned, maybe. But back to the questions I have for staff. Also, the hours of operation. Now, before we've had stipulations where certain hours couldn't be expanded, and so we said for special use, you could have it, but the price for having this special use is these set hours, and we've made the hours part of the stipulation. Is there any feeling that we should do this here, especially now that you're hearing their next door neighbor's a church, and they have a Thursday night service?
It's a possibility. I think that would probably be appropriate for modifying the Sunday hours that they had originally planned, but otherwise the general hours of operation, I think, can just be part of the staff report that's part of the record in the approval of this case.
And Saturday, I guess the typo we had for that, it's then 8:30 to 5. You figure Saturday is okay? Well, I guess we're covering it.
Well, if I can clarify, this is the time for Saturday and then Sunday, so he wants 7 days of operation.
Okay.
Now, along those lines, if it's a permitted use and this is allowed to go in as a special use, philosophically, I have some troubles trying to restrict someone's business hours if they really need to maintain them to make a go of it. This does sound like a major conflict for whoever owns this building to try to satisfy the needs of their tenants and juggle those, because they do not seem to be compatible with what's currently there.
I agree. It seems almost like we're kind of trending towards tenant coordination rather than
Yeah.
just looking at a special use. I mean, looking at that separate of somebody coordinating their tenants. I mean, I think that's where the real conflict is, not necessarily in the concept of the special use, in my opinion.
Is there language in your leases that speaks directly to the shared parking or anything with respect to the two adjacent properties
So, in the current one that I had previously, no. I currently have no lease. It's pending my signature. Wait, hoping everything goes well here moving forward. But that's what I'm looking at too, also in that contract once he revises it, because that is in fact what he wants to do.
You're not currently working out of this building, are you?
No.
Okay.
Empty building.
Mr. Chairman, if I may interject
Certainly.
just a few thoughts. Procedurally, you know, I'm usually one of the last people to propose a continuance, just for the benefit of keeping the projects moving forward and hoping the commission has some level of trust and, you know, staff can work through details. I want to point out a couple things. Just calendar-wise, the Plan Commission is actually going to meet again on February 21st before the village board meets due to the President's Day holiday. So
Okay.
if it's the wish of the commission that, you know, staff has an opportunity to coordinate with the petitioner, with the church use, now that we're familiar with the potential conflict for hours, to involve the property owner, the landlord, in identifying how the parking rights can be balanced and shared. There's even an opportunity potentially for shared parking agreement with an adjacent property. So long story short, you know, staff just want to point out a continuance wouldn't actually delay consideration by the village board.
Well, I don't want to speak for the commissioners, but I feel there's a consensus that we have some real issues with the current parking proposals and then also the hours of operation. And I think, I personally would like to see some more clarification on some of this.
And then also the accessibility, as you mentioned too.
I mean, obviously, I think it'd be wise to run that by. I know we have some strange grandfathered in parking lots around the village, but I think the fire department would be, you know, well suited to take a look at this.
This one's a doozy.
That being said, I think maybe unless anybody wants to make a motion of consideration, the chair would entertain a motion to continue this to our next scheduled meeting. Are you comfortable with trying to work with the applicant? Are you comfortable trying to work with staff to try to get some answers on some of these issues?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because just to be honest with you, any of these things that we brought up here, they're gonna come up before the village board as well.
Yeah, and I anticipated the parking to be brought up, so it's not anything I didn't foresee.
Just- You know, to the benefit of your business, I think you're gonna wanna have dedicated spots where they're gonna be there for your customers. And, we've had another tenant speak on their needs, and they don't seem real compatible at this point, but. So again, I would entertain a motion to continue.
So that can be my motion to continue this matter to further hearing on the 16th?
21st, do you wanna list the 21st by name, or just to a future, okay, so, 21st.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, so a motion's been made and seconded to continue this case to February 21st, 2017. That's our next scheduled Plan Commission meeting. Can we get a vote by roll call, please?
Commissioner Womack,
Yes.
Commissioner Heinen,
Yes.
Commissioner Menace,
Yes.
Commissioner Renzi,
Yes.
Chairman Kiefer.
Yes. So this case will be continued to 2 weeks from today.
Okay.
Please work with staff. You know, thank you for bringing this in front of us. I think you noticed, I think you knew coming in there's some challenge with this, but
Yeah,
we're gonna-
definitely.
We're gonna have to make some progress on this for us to, I guess, rule on this again in a potentially favorable way, but we need to see that addressed.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you guys.
We have no other cases on our agenda this evening. Is there anything for open discussion? Anything anybody want to bring up?
I do have 2 points.
Okay.
One would be to staff. If staff could look at the case that we just continued, page 2 and page 3. In the bottom of page 2, they use talking about about the sound. They're talking about the sound, and in the from the bottom, it's the last paragraph before they're talking about in order for the planning commission. It says may shield some of the noise. And then over here in the findings of fact, on the second line, it says that the noise generated will be mitigated. And since we're not talking about that case, we can talk about, since I am a lawyer, I tend to be a little picayune,
May and will?
Exactly. You know, you're asking us to find shall when you're saying may in the presentment. So those really aren't the same words. So I would just say that either it is mitigated or it may be mitigated, but we can't say it is mitigated when the findings are it may be mitigated. Okay?
All right, I'll try to be consistent with it.
Yeah, just that's just nitpicky on me, but that's fine. And the second thing is also nitpicking about the parking. I understand this is a separate issue, and we never really got to 9 versus 3. But I still come to the point that we are all sworn to do basically a couple of things. One is the fact, yeah, we're subject to the Constitution. Just let that pause so everybody can draw their own conclusions to who is still, but also by ordinances. And if the parking ordinance says you're supposed to have this many with a business of this kind and it's a grid, well, then it's kind of like a Social Security application. It's going to be denied unless you fit in the grid.
Or
Uh,
there's a variance granted, but there was
But,
no
well,
request for
Social
it, so-
Security doesn't really have a variance, so.
well.
And so we do have variances, but like last week, we didn't enact a variance. And we ignored and today we were supposed, well, can't we say, because the logic was similar then to that. So all I'm saying is maybe there should be something at the village board that says, hey, guys, this is not the end all be all. Staff is right with their interpretation of it being quote unquote guidelines, and that sufficient facts can be presented at an evidentiary hearing, which this is, so you can then make your findings that the guidelines don't really apply and there's adequate parking, and this could be a way we could address the issue of overparked versus underparked, and not necessarily have a grid, because, I mean, a monkey could do that. And
Yeah, I think staff understands the point very clearly that your interest is in making sure that we collectively, staff, the Plan Commission, the Village Board, follow a consistent set of regulations that are, you know, spelled out in the zoning code. So understand that fully, and
if we have to do a variance, it doesn't really matter, because we can just simply add the variance onto anything we act on, and that's like 30 seconds.
But to have a recommendation waived with just the staff report saying we're comfortable with this, I think we need a better justification.
Yeah, and so, and if, ideally, as a lawyer, what I would like is the code itself to be amended and have a tagline that says, the foregoing is a rebuttable presumption that on a fact-to-fact basis can be found not applicable by the Planning Commission. Well, there we go. And then we can just rely on that little blurb to then say, okay, yeah, you're right. Because since we already approved it, yes, the commissioner, he was right. We were overparked, and it was good for the meeting 2 weeks ago that we didn't have that, because it was a kind of nonsensical parking. But we don't really have power to make that conclusion.
We don't.
Yes.
Okay.
So
I will
that's all I have.
we will evaluate that and kind of report back to the commission on how, you know, what the action item is if we're going to amend the site plan review ordinance to grant that flexibility. I think staff's reasonably comfortable with the approach, at least, that we're being transparent, we're identifying it, it's part of the public discussion, but certainly your point is well taken, that it has to
Yeah.
be
And the applicant, I would think all applicants can read, and so they can say, oh, I have to have X number of spots. Oh, I don't really want that because I don't need that. Well, okay, then show us why they don't need it. And by us, I
Well-
mean show staff, and then staff can come and show us, and then we can either agree or say, yeah, nice
And
try.
really some of the, you know, code for parking is really not negotiable. Like I said, one of our commissioners is in here this evening, and he would have, I'm sure, spent time in
Oh.
detail about accessibility, so,
Right. Oh,
and
yeah,
mark
I'm-
dedicated spots.
Oh, yeah, just to be clear, I'm not
And that,
talking
and that
about
didn't even co-
handicap.
that didn't come up this evening,
Yeah.
but it will come up next time if it's not in there, so.
It's a whole nother discussion.
Okay, other comments from anybody?
One quick thing, you know, being in the real estate business, I make a lot of applications to a lot of different municipalities, and a lot of them have like specific requirements in regards to submittals, like saying they need 7 copies of the 11 by 17, you know, for plan commission and board or whatever. It seems like we get a hodgepodge of drawing sizes and all that. I'm a big fan of 11 by 17, and I don't know if I don't believe we have in our checklist requirements that when they make a submittal that it has to be 11 by 17 size. I just think it's easier to read, it's easier to open, it's, you know, not as big and cumbersome. So something to consider, because a lot of other municipalities are doing that. Thank you.
I have to ask you, was that your attorney you brought with you this evening in the back?
It is.
Let the record reflect, Commissioner Heinen's son is in attendance
Yeah,
this
hopefully he
evening?
didn't destroy my phone back there, so.
All right, anything else? All right, at 7:46, we will adjourn the meeting. Oh, I'm sorry, quick reminder, February 21st will be our next Plan Commission meeting. March 6th, 2017 will be the next scheduled village board meeting. And at 7:47, we will adjourn.